Sports and leisure.
So when you hear about like a teenager, let's say a 17-year-old getting caught with paraphernalia by the cops and being brought in, like what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Justin Bieber.
Okay, I know what kind of paraphernalia, but
No, sorry. That's just the story that was in the news last week was that Justin Bieber was caught with paraphernalia. So
drug paraphernalia, I'm assuming.
yeah. Word association. Sorry, just jump to Bieber as I often do.
Well, in back in the 1970s, there was a kid that was pulled over, and the cops found the remnants of a nuclear reactor in it.
Wait, in the 1970s?
Yeah.
Okay. Crazy.
And this wasn't, he hadn't stolen this from a nuclear reactor. This is from a nuclear reactor he made in his shed in the backyard.
What? All right. I'm intrigued.
So this kid he'd been interested in like chemistry his whole life, and he had done a few of the like in the basement, like things blow up and, experiments gone wrong. And he had earned his atomic like energy merit badge from the Boy Scouts, which I had no idea.
So
maybe it's been.
This is just a Boy Scouts project then. This atomic reactor.
Maybe because of this, they discontinued that merit badge because I don't remember it. But so he gets in his mind that he's going to make a nuclear reactor, and he had previously been interested in like the periodic table, and he had gathered tried to gather all the elements, including the radioactive ones, and apparently like there's things in like fire detectors and old clocks, like radiums in old clocks, and fire detectors have like Americonian or something like that, and so he had gathered some of this previously, but he basically gathered enough to make a small nuclear reactor in his shed. And it hadn't reached what they call critical mass yet. So it wasn't like fully operational, but it had gotten powerful enough that he could like detect it from blocks away.
Oh, gosh.
So he decided that he needed to dismantle it, and he got caught at that point.
Wow.
So, when you hear the story, like, I don't know, what do you expect this guy's done with the rest of his life at this point?
Well, if they let him stay outside of jail, then I guess I would assume he'd be like some sort of scientist.
Yeah, that's kind of what he wanted. He wanted to be a nuclear scientist, but after dropping out of community college, he did a short stint in the Navy where he was like, he was on a nuclear aircraft carrier, but he was of no real importance because everybody agreed apparently that he had too much exposure to nuclear, like radioactive materials at this point in his life.
Oh, so he couldn't be around it anymore?
Yeah, exactly.
Dang.
Yeah.
I would still think like you could design or be an engineer or something and not actually have to be in contact with the stuff. Is that not true? I don't know.
I would think, but if you can't pass community college.
Yeah, that's true. I think this is all just like a really good PSA for, there's a lot of people in jail right now for like marijuana, and it should just be legal, just like plutonium. If he had never been busted at a young age for just some innocent plutonium usage, then he would have never had his life put on the wrong course and couldn't even make it through community college. It was probably all from his his misguided use of plutonium. We all do it. I mean, we all did it at some age, right? Right, so, Spencer?
No. But what I'm getting from you is you think his whole neighborhood's life was worth throwing away for this one kid to become a nuclear engineer.
It's just some innocent, casual plutonium usage.
And then the other update on him, the last he was heard of, is that
did any of his neighbors get hurt? Did people die? Was there cancer run amok?
No, apparently everything worked out just fine. Um, so if anybody's planning on making a small nuclear reactor in, their garage, it usually turns out fine as far as we've heard.
Yeah, as far as we heard, in 100% of cases that we've discussed on this podcast.
Recreational use of radioactive materials, it worked out just fine.
Yeah, I like that. The more you know. That's our PSA right there.
The only thing that did happen is he did get in 1997 he got arrested for stealing a bunch of fire detectors because he was trying to salvage the radioactive material out of them. And there's apparently a mugshot online of him with all these like radioactive burns all over his face.
Oh gosh. Do you have a link to that? Have you found that?
I will do my best to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, put that in the show notes because that's going to be of interest. Golly.
So it may be harmless, but it will lead to a life of crime in 100% of cases we've discussed on this podcast.
I like that as our new metric for things. I was reading, preparing for the podcast today, and a bunch of the. Often you hear about, a headline from a study or something, and then you dig into it, and you're like, that headline doesn't really go with the findings, And I like that we can make up our own little studies here. Just be like, 100% of cases.
And then you just put that ellipses in the middle. You don't have to include the part that says, as discussed in our podcast.
That's true. An ellipsis could, really get us some places.
There's a lot of power in those 3 periods.
Thanks for listening. Want to pursue more trivialities? Find every full episode and show notes at pursuitofthetrivial.wordpress.com. Listen to Matt's music at mattcarrollmusic.com. Check out Spencer's art blog at spencerroeder.com. As for me, I'm David C. Robertson, and you can see my original sketch, comedy, and web series, many of which feature Matt and Spencer, at maladjusted.tv.